VAR stuck with the original decision, Danny, after there wasn't a definitive camera angle to suggest it was wrong. Lopetegui has contacted Webb, and he's attached footage that he has of the incident, taken apparently by Wolves' tactical camera, which he says proves that Núñez was onside, the goal should have stood. Okay, great. But what do they hope to achieve by calling for explanations regarding disallowed goals and refereeing decision?
Well, I'm with you. It's pointless. I mean, you've already got the answer. You've just given the answer in the overview.
Yeah.
The answer is they didn't have a definitive camera angle to see whether he was on or off, which is ridiculous in itself. I mean, absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand it. But, yeah, what's the point? What are you going to get?
I mean, what are they going to get? And Alex, I'd add to that, is it weak for the authorities to be in the business of offering out apologies?
Well, I'd imagine they won't get an apology. I guess they may get an apology.
Well, someone needs to apologise for why the cameras weren't working, like they do on a Premier League match.
Do you know what? There's a wider point at play here, because there were a few contentious offside decisions up and down the country in the FA Cup, and some could go to VAR because they were being played at Premier League grounds, and some couldn't.
Yeah.
Now, surely that in itself undermines the integrity of the competition. If you're going to have VAR, you have it across the board, or you don't have it at all. And actually, I don't think too many Premier League clubs would push back on not having VAR in the FA Cup and going with the on-field calls.
Is that the FA's choice? Because that just sums up whoever's sat down and decided on it has not played football, have they?
What?
They don't get it.
No.
Well, certain clubs don't have the technology to do it.
Well, no, exactly. So nobody should do it.
And the other point...
Some idiot at the FA thinks, you know what, we'll do it for the ones with the... I mean, I've heard a couple of people suggest that you should, because you should have it, and then at least some of the games are fairer. But no, that's not the way it works.
The other point is that obviously there was a lot of contention that television viewers didn't see the workings out at Stockley Park. That's again because the FA adopted a different approach to the Premier League. They don't want to show what's going on at Stockley Park. So again, there's no consistency there. I feel for Wolves. It was a tight call. The assistant's bang in line with it. He thinks the corner taker is coming back for an offside position. That's why the goal has been ruled out. That's the explanation that they will get, I would imagine, from Howard Webb. If I were Wolves, I would just forget about trying to get any kind of apology and focus on trying to win the replay.
Well, I'll tell you what's even more perplexing, and I wasn't even aware of it till the first goal, the Salah one, and I was delighted that the officials there wasn't a camera, or the officials let Salah's goal go, because I didn't want Liverpool going out, of course, but that rule that they used or interpreted to say that Salah was onside has got to go. You can't have defenders not allowed to try and intercept balls in case they touch it and then the offside player gets it. Did you see the goal?
I remember the moment. Yeah.
Because what
you're exactly what you're saying. You're spot on.
What you're then asking defenders to do is forget the habits of 20 years of growing up playing football,
right,
and trying to intercept balls and stop balls.
Yeah.
Because if you deliberately, the rule suggests that if you deliberately make an attempt to get the ball, and then it goes to a player who's offside, he's then onside. But every attempt to defend is deliberate, isn't it? Really.
But again,
it's subconscious, isn't it, as well? It's ingrained.
All this stuff is contested. Only in football. Other sports have got technology and got on with it. You never have the post-mortem after post-mortem that we have.
I heard
in
you
football.
and Simon.
We never have it in other
you and Simon were
sports.
talking a couple of weeks ago about the numbers regarding using the numbers that the Premier League have given regarding VAR, and what was it, six goals that they made a mistake on.
Yeah.
X amount of number that they've made correct. Judged by whom? Those numbers are just somebody's interpretation of what's right and wrong.
And that's the issue.
A panel of officials.
Yeah, there you go. Not a panel of ex-players or people who know football. Panel of officials from the Premier League, mixed with the VAR officials to manipulate numbers to make it look like it's working.
Yeah, but Danny, we get back to the same. There's no manipulation. We get back to
not
the
manipulation.
same,
Sorry, that's the wrong word. Interpretation.
The same old story, though.
Yeah.
Who has played the game wants to get involved in this process?
Well, that's true.
Where is the queue forming?
Well, Howard Webb's big mantra is to get more ex-players involved. I mean, he wants them as on-field officials with the greatest will in the world. That isn't going to happen. But I've been pushing for a long time that we should have ex-players in the VAR room.
Well, do you know what?
But it's because you guys don't want to do it, Danny.
Well, also as well, if we're really honest about it, just because you're an ex-player doesn't mean you're always going to be right. That's the crux of it. Our ego might suggest we think we are, but we're not. So
ego, you.
Yeah. the problem is for me is that so many rules now are subjective. Some of the ruling is how you interpret the rule rather than making it very black and white.
Offside isn't, though, is it? Offside is supposed to be black or white. That's why this has become such a contentious issue.
Well,
do we know for definite that the assistant has made a mistake? I'm not sure that we do.
In what?
In the player coming back from an offside position.
Can
you say 100% that he isn't offside?
Nunes?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to the Wolves' last goal.
Yeah.
The one was disallowed.
Yeah.
We don't know either way, so he might be right. He might be right.
So do we not have to give the assistant the benefit of the doubt in this case?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I can live
Wolves
with
aren't.
Accept the decision,
well,
Mr.
no,
Lopetegui, move on.
What I can't live with is how the cameras are there,
but not being used
for the Premier League game.
Yeah,
but they're not being used properly for the FA Cup game. How can there be two different systems of how the cameras are set up?
That might be a fair point. I'll concede to that.
Somebody at the FA,
it's probably cost, isn't it? It's cost. What's provided by for the Premier League fixture may not be provided by the FA. But Alex made a good point. Why, when it comes to the cup, it's got to be all or nothing.
Yeah, no, I
either
agree.
have the process or don't have the process.
Yeah, we've deviated. I mean, the subject of VAR we go on about all day, but in terms of the FA Cup, I make that right. If you can't have it, it's got to be fair and equitable throughout, hasn't it? You can't have one game having VAR and another game not having VAR in the same competition.
But you still think that ex-players should be involved in the VAR process?
I think it would help, but I don't think it would be a fix. I don't think there is a complete fix.
Well, number one, none of you want to do it. Number two,
I'd do
there's a message. You do it.
Yeah.
Danny Murphy is formally applying for the job. Howard Webb, if you're listening, you've got a candidate.
I would be better at VAR than any of the people they've got doing it now. Any of them.
Why do you think that?
Wow. That's
Why?
a big claim.
Because I've watched and played more football than any of them.
Is this because you played
There's not
football
one
15
VAR
years
official.
ago?
There's not one VAR official who's watched more football than me.
There's a message coming as you're talking. Danny pushes the whole "he's not an ex-player" narrative far too much. You don't have to play a sport to know anything about it.
Who said that?
One of our listeners.
What's he talking about? I lost track of what's he going on about?
You are telling us seconds ago, that because you're a former player of note, we concede that you would execute VAR decisions better than anyone has done so far.
No, not just because I'm an ex-player. Because I watch football non-stop and I'm brighter than the people who do it. I'm more intelligent and better at watching football than those guys doing it. Because some of the decisions they come up with, my 12-year-old would be better at than some of the decisions I've seen this season.
We get a strong coffee for Danny in here just during the next break.
Are you trying to tell me I'm not bright enough to run VAR better than they're doing it?
You could probably do it, but I don't think you'd be better than the people they've got in place.
Well, then I might as well give up life. Because
that's a bit extreme.
VAR has been
wait until one at least.
VAR has been handled so badly.
In this country,
yes,
it works quite well elsewhere.
It's been used ridiculously
it works
badly.
well here. It's just
does
people
not
like
work well.
you.
Some of the decisions are beyond belief.
I think it will get better. You know, we spoke to Howard Webb a few weeks ago.
So will the weather, but I'm sick of waiting for that.
It's got better.
Than what?
It's almost all of the decisions have been right.
What? Of course they haven't. They've come out themselves
of the
and give
they
X
haven't
amount
got right.
Yeah, but
it's minimal.
Minimal.
It clears up so many grey areas. It's allowing many, many more goals to stand.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
It takes more goals away than it allows to stand. 100%.
In the next commercial break,
how many goals is it taken away from a millimetre of offside? How many times have we seen that?
Yeah, but if you're a millimetre offside, you're still offside.
Who we playing football for? The fans or the numbers that make it perfect?
Offside is offside, in my opinion.
Oh, no, that's nonsense, because you know as well as I do, when you look at the complexities when the ball leaves the foot and the framing and how many frames per second,
Get Danny in the
VAR
truck this
right?
weekend.
You know that some of them aren't perfect.
Danny's decision making.
And somebody's
actually offside, but I'm going to allow it to stand.
The biggest thing here, forget the numbers. Forget whether it's improved by 5%, 6%.
Forget right or wrong.
Forget numbers for a second. Why do the majority, huge majority of football fans who love this game across our country want VAR gone? Tell me why if I'm wrong.
Well,
tell me why.
For me, the big problem with it is
why do they want it gone?
The celebration. You don't know if you can properly celebrate a goal.
Exactly.
I mean, look at the scenes, with the Wolves winner, that we're talking about that was disallowed.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt sorry for the guy because it took him a long time to realise that it wasn't going to stand. So I'm with you on that. But I don't think VAR is quite as bad as everybody makes out. And I think it will get better
But
under
that's because
Howard
you've
Webb.
never played the game to my level.
Can you honestly say?
No, I mean you've
We're
never
going down that
No,
road,
said
are
a
we?
minute ago. It doesn't matter that you played.
No. Let me give you detail on that comment because it's not derogatory in any way. It's not condescending. What I mean is you've never felt that euphoria of a last-minute winner in a big game that would have been taken away.
Have you? I'm being
Yes.
cheeky. There's Judgment Day.
Do you know what I mean
One
by
of our
that, though?
listeners.
Yeah.
That you've had it as a fan, but it's not just the fans who are getting stuff. The players are losing those magical moments
Agreed.
based on what you just said.
Our
Agreed.
hearts bleed for you. There's a message. Former professional footballers are a joke. They don't even know the football rules. Can you sit here and say hand in heart, Danny, you know the rules?
I don't think there's anybody who in the country who can say they now know the rules properly of football.
Sam Matterface is pretty good, to be fair.
But his interpretation of the rules.
Yeah.
There's so many rules that are just interpretation now.
He needs to get out more. Danny, thank you for that. Some sweeping statements. We'll have a look at the rulebook during this break.
The VAR's a joke. The people who run it don't do it well enough, and that's the way it is. Simple as that.
Danny's throwing something of a VAR tantrum this morning. Alex Crook and I are sitting well back. Ian is one of many in total support with you, Danny. Jim White waking up. Well, I'm trying to. VAR is a tool that's badly used. Ask the question, why don't the FA or the Premier League want outside involvement? Why does VAR work in other countries but not here? But it does work here. It does work here.
No, I
And the
think
stats
he's
prove
got a
it.
point. I think he's got a point. The problem for me isn't the technology, and the technology is here to stay, like it or not. They're not going to get rid of VAR.
We'll see.
Okay, that isn't going to happen.
We'll see.
I'll tell you that isn't going to happen.
We'll see.
But for me, the people who've been using the technology haven't been using it correctly, and that really brings into question the standards of officiating in this country. This is the best league in the world. I'm not sure we got the best officials in the world.
What I do
Although
like,
having seen some at the World Cup,
what I do like about what I've heard about Howard Webb is that he's trying to get a higher bar.
he is.
Now, that in itself is going to be helpful because if it is here to stay, you want it only to be interfering for really clear, big, clear and obvious decisions.
Yeah.
The problem is interpretation of clear and obvious. And that's something that us three could sit here and argue. Never mind the 3 people at VAR or the 6 people at VAR.
Well, the reason we're talking about this is Wolves have written to Howard Webb calling for an explanation after they were denied an FA Cup win, that disallowed goal at Liverpool at the weekend. Let me just refer you to this.
Yep.
There were 48 VAR interventions during the season. 42 of them were correct. 6 were deemed incorrect by the key match incident panel.
What a title! What a title that
Who's
is,
on
by
that
the way.
panel? Who's on the panel? The panel features 3 former players,
Oh, go on then.
a Premier League referee,
Which players?
and a Premier League representative. But it doesn't give us the identity of the players, but it features 3 former players. But those are the latest figures. 48, just a fortnight ago, they told us this. 48 VAR interventions during the season so far.
Okay.
42 of the 48 were right. 6 weren't right,
Right, and
according to the
does
key
that-
match incident panel.
Are those interventions also the offsides?
No, I think they were more open play. As I say, offside is a matter of
There were
fact.
interventions and offsides were included.
If offside was a matter of fact, we wouldn't have this contention about the winner or the lack.
Well, that's because we haven't seen. We don't know.
So it's not clear then.
Well, it's clearly clear to the assistant referee. We just haven't had the benefit of seeing it from various angles as we would if it was a Premier League
when
game.
you see these stats, Danny, 48 VAR interventions during the season.
What about-
42 were correct, 6 were incorrect. That knocks your argument right over London Bridge and those buildings.
That's
there.
actually not a huge number of interventions
It's
either. When you
irrelevant
look at the number
numbers.
of games that have been played, I think Howard Webb's view is that
But
there
who
have been
says there
too
should-
many
but who
interventions.
says there shouldn't have been double that?
Well, I don't think we really need any more, do we? That's the whole
No,
point.
but they might have missed. They might have missed 48 others.
Howard Webb's remit, as you've said, is that there will be less interventions and actually there will be more accountability
I'd love to know
for
which
on-field
I'd
officials.
love to know. Not that it matters which former players are on, but I'd still like to know who they're getting involved.
Okay.
But furthermore,
I'll
and
give
the
you
bigger
Howard Webb's number.
But the bigger point, Jim, is this: you said that more goals are being scored because of VAR.
Correct.
That is nonsense.
It's not nonsense.
It is.
It's not nonsense.
It's got to
We'll
be.
get the stat for that in a moment. But that latest
let me
stat
get-
knocks your argument
you don't
into
need,
touch.
You don't need a stat on it because
those interventions,
yeah.
some of those led to goals.
There's 2 facts.
The goals that wouldn't have stood had you not had it.
How do you know what the interventions are? You haven't got detail of them in front of you. You're just guessing.
I'm not guessing. I'm looking at what they've just provided.
48 VAR interventions.
They're listening at
but
the moment.
we don't know that they would have been goals. We don't know. We haven't got detail. They might be. They might not be. But you're guessing, so don't guess.
You are paddling upstream without so much as a matchstick.
I'd like a number of how many goals were disallowed because of an offside that was less than an inch or an armpit.
Yeah, but offside is offside. Those are the rules.
That's if you judge offside on an armpit. Who decided it's an armpit rather than a foot or a head?
The rule makers.
But that's nonsense.
IFAB are the people who make the rules.
But they wouldn't. If you didn't have VAR, you wouldn't have those goals disallowed. So we'd have more goals. Do you want to see goals disallowed?
No, you have more goals, but some of those goals will be wrongly given.
Do you want to see goals?
Do you want to see goals that shouldn't have been given?
How many goals have been given?
Answer me that.
What?
Do you want to see some goals that shouldn't have been given?
If need be.
Wrongly awarded.
Yeah, if it creates better euphoria and a better spectacle and a better feeling amongst the fans and everybody more content, yeah. If it creates a memorable moment for a 7-year-old with his dad that he'll never forget rather than having taken away because somebody's armpit's offside, hell yes.
Danny,
last
season, 47 decision overturns led to goals and 43 led to disallowed goals. Last season.
On whose numbers? Theirs. Their own people.
Well, I'm not making it up.
Well, I'm not
whose numbers do you want?
Well, how can you manage yourself? How can you give statistics on your own competence?
The stats are proving that the independent review tells us
independent
it
review.
Improves the decision
You think it's an independent review?
It improves the ratio of outcome from correct to incorrect.
Whether you're as in a percentage, you're telling me there's
your argument is. Forget the thing. So what? The odd goal shouldn't stand. Let it stand.
Do you know the other argument that was put forward? That's why the
whole thing was introduced, so these goals don't stand.
I'm not a fan, and a majority is football supporters who are the most important people on the planet, not people who sit in an office looking at numbers. Right? The majority
don't consider themselves important.
But the majority of football fans don't want it because you lose the euphoric moments that football is there to create. And the problem is with VAR...
Those euphoric moments celebrating a goal that shouldn't have been given.
What you mean like Maradona's? That's just life, isn't it? It's history of football. We talk about it now. It's just the way we always had it. I like it that way. Doesn't mean I'm right or wrong. It's my opinion. The fact is that those numbers they can throw out there at small percentages of gain that they're talking about don't justify the disappointment that the fans have when they go to a game and they have to wait around for 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 2 minutes to have goals taken away at brilliant moments.
You haven't so much started a blaze as a major forest fire with this. Some of the calls, some of the messages coming in. There's Billy, a West Ham fan. Someone's got to get Danny a ladder to climb out the hole he's just dug for himself. Let's hear from Steve, who supports AC Milan and Liverpool. That's an interesting combination. Steve, what do you want to say in this?
You know what? Good morning, gentlemen. I've been listening to you guys for the last, since you started the show this morning.
Okay.
I actually agree with Danny. The problem is, I'm a coach now. I coach kids. I've coached adults. Football is the simplest game on the planet. VAR has made it a little bit better, but the problem is the interpretation of the rules.
But that's not a VAR problem. That's a rulebook problem. I think this is what we miss.
This is what I'm trying to say. VAR can work if the rules were actually fit for purpose. Now, I grew up playing football. I coach football. I teach kids. This is the offside rule. How can you teach kids now the offside rule when your gut instinct as a defender is the ball comes towards you, you're going to clear it. You're not going to look around and think, the guy's standing 2 yards behind me, so let it go. He's offside. That doesn't work. It does not work. The whole rules need to be put into line so they actually work with VAR. And I'm with Danny. We need ex-professional players who actually know the game. Some of these referees, they referee. All they do is go and sit in a room. Oh, you've got a qualification. That's it. You're a referee. But they've never played the game. Even the prime example last night, Newcastle game, Callum Wilson jumped up in the air with his arms flailing all over the place, looking for a penalty. The guy who was defending hardly touched him, and Andy Hinchcliffe, the co-commentator, first instinct, that's a penalty, that's a penalty. He looked at it again and he went, you know what, that's no way.
But you've just defeated your own argument. Andy Hinchcliffe's a former player.
Yeah, he's a former player, but what I'm saying is, the rules need to
Uh-huh.
be changed so they assist the people who are doing VAR. The VAR is not a problem. VAR, like I'm with Danny, I don't like VAR. For me, it destroys the game.
Steve, thank you very much indeed for that. No, we get where you're coming from. You're going to the same college of illogicality as Mr. Murphy.
No, what you're doing is what's happening is you're getting somebody at the Premier League or VAR, whoever, or PGMO or whatever, to throw some stats that show you that VAR works. Now, if you've got 1 million cameras at a game, you are going to get some decisions right that the referee would have missed.
We have just throw stats at you.
Yeah,
We've
you
just
have.
given you stats.
That's what I just said. You're getting stats thrown at me because what you're justifying is...
Which have just defeated your argument.
Well, they haven't. They haven't, because their numbers are created by themselves. And actually,
And you think they're cooking the books?
No, I think they... But there's a lot of things they'd have missed and went under the radar that they think we won't bring that one up.
It's time for Joe to join us. Manchester United fan. Joe, what do you want to say?
Yes, gentlemen. I, as a paying customer, want to see as many correct decisions as possible. It's as
Agreed.
simple as that.
There you go.
And what's happening is VAR is giving us more and more correct decisions all the time. It helps to stop the cheating. It's so beneficial all round. And then the point that I keep hearing from a lot of ex-professionals is, you've never played the game. You've never done this. You've never done that. Well, how many Premiership players have ever refereed a Premiership game? So why do they feel the need to comment on the referee's performance?
Good point, Joe.
Because you know nothing about the laws. So, again, I'm the paying customer. I want the right decision as often as possible, and we're getting more correct decisions. Very simple.
And you're right, Joe. You're right to make that point. As we've said to Danny, 48 VAR interventions during the season, 42 are correct, 6 incorrect. So they admitted, Danny, that
They
by
got
their own
6 wrong.
figures, they got 6 wrong, but they got 42 right. So without VAR, you might have had 48 wrong decisions there.
You might have done, but it's just the way football... That's human error. That's what happens with referees. Look, the fact is, they're going to get some decisions right when you've got cameras helping a ref. Of course you are. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest problem is...
Your biggest problem?
My biggest
All right,
problem
sorry.
is the constant wait after a goal is scored.
Yeah.
That's my biggest bugbear. If you only had VAR...
It's not constant.
Well, they check every goal.
Yeah, but
So
it's not
it
a
is
constant
constant.
long wait. It's not. It's very rarely does a wait extended to minutes. Very
Very
rarely.
rare.
Very rare.
Oh,
Even if it does, they're seeking to get the right decision.
but it takes away that the
Make yourself a cup of tea.
This.
There's a message from Patrick
when you're at the
Crine.
game,
It's a
you're
good
going
one.
to make yourself.
Jim White, I'm listening to you. You're turning into an old woman. Patrick, years ago. It's 11:45.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.